On today's episode of the Devon Messenger Show, we are back. Oh, we have waited so long for this. The Longhorns, I know I don't want to start negative. They fell just short last season, but this year, there's plenty of reason to look up. And that being the first game of the year, number one, Texas versus number three, Ohio State. That just sounds good. And even better than it sounding good, it is at the Horseshoe in Columbus, Ohio. The scene for college football is just going to be legendary. Lee Corso's final ESPN game day, yet again, being maybe the most hyped opening season game in some time, if not ever. And talking about hyping someone up, I'm going to hype up the guest here, who's no longer a guest of the show. He is now the fellow contributor, the fellow co-host, Jacob Campos. We'll talk about Jacob, JC in a second, but he's replacing, I got to leave a nice sour note, for Dylan Durod, my boy. He gave us plenty of years on the pod. Really saved me when I needed him most. Plenty of mispronounced names for the both of us, but overall, many years of fun. We're thinking of him on every episode, hoping we can do just as good as he. Now bringing in my good friend, Jacob Campos. You're going to be seeing a lot of this man. I've got him on the screen with me here. He is quite the talker, so you guys are going to definitely enjoy him. He's got the takes. He's got the flair. You can see the flow. JC, welcome to the pod.
And Devin, thanks for having me. I can't wait to rework that title with you after we finish that
uh,
this show today. We'll rework it. Yeah, Devin, just want to say, so grateful for the opportunity to be here. Always love getting a chance to jump on and be a contributor for something, especially just a podcast that's been as long run as it's gone and as many episodes as it's had. Just want to first give a big thanks just to you, to Horn Sports. Excited to be here. Excited to jump into the season and excited to talk Texas football and excited to get to talk to the fans this year. But with that being said, man, I know you said we don't like to do it, but I think we got to start where it all went wrong. I think that's where
oh,
we need
well,
to go. So,
we'll,
yeah.
we'll, we'll get there. We'll get there. They don't want to hear that just yet. They don't want to hear that just yet. We'll get there. Basic game info to give you guys a second to brace yourself for what JC was just hinting at. The game is Saturday, the 30th at 11 a.m. Central Time at Ohio Stadium in Columbus, although the Horseshoe, a lot more fun to say. Televised on Fox. Ohio State, the third ranked team, is favored by 2.5 points. So, getting into the scouting report here, JC, Ohio State definitely was no friend of the Longhorns come January. Are you scared of this team, even though it's not quite the same? How are you feeling in general about the Buckeyes? Are you worried?
I think you're a fool if you say anything other than yes. I mean, yeah. I mean, let's talk about this Ohio State team for a second. Yes, there's no more Jack Sawyer. Yes, there's no Trayvon Henderson, who's going to rip us off for a screenplay for a touchdown at the very end right before halftime. There's no more Will Howard, who never did it at K State, but somehow was able to get rid of the ball in under 2.5 seconds playing us last year. Um, yeah, you're missing a lot of characters from the show, but you're also missing Quinn Ewers. You're missing Jade Barron, and you can talk on and on about last year. Last year was last year. And, this was something that was said way back in the beginning of the offseason that I think people kind of overlooked. But Ryan Day was saying, I can't even quote me on when this was, but it was, a couple months ago. Ryan Day talked about how his team was like, we're moving on to next year. We don't really care about, having our 2025 national championship banner hanging up in the training facility. And I think on the same token, that's got to be how the Horns feel, man. Last year was last year. It's two completely different teams. It's two teams that are now missing, 12 draft picks on Texas side, 14 draft picks on Ohio State side, a couple of UDFAs as well. But it's still the national champions. I mean, it was still we talked about Michigan last year, went to go play Michigan in the Big House week 2. You still got to give them respect. With Ohio State, Ryan Day is now a national championship coach, which really pains me to say. And they've got what some people claim to be the number one defensive player in college football. I don't even think he's going to be the best defensive player out there on the field on Saturday, personally. They've got a brand new quarterback. We've got a brand new quarterback. You got to give ultimate respect to Ohio State and to the shoe, just pure environment in itself. I mean, But if you really want to talk about that 2.5 and really look at it, that means Vegas is just giving them that home field advantage. So a lot to be excited about, but I am ready for just an all-time clash of low-scoring offenses, and it's going to be who's going to limit some turnovers and who's going to make a big play when it counts. But
I
I'm
love
ready to
that.
go.
I love that.
I'm
Well, no,
excited.
perfect feed in here because we're talking about
Yeah.
what went wrong last year. My first point, JC, was turnovers. Texas lost the turnover battle. It was 2-1, so not a crazy differential, but every turnover matters because why? You can get points off those turnovers. And on the flip side, you can lose points off of those turnovers. For Texas, that was not a pretty matchup. They let up some big gashers when they really couldn't afford it. Also, that being a difference in this year's game. Last time around, you had two NFL running backs who are ready to go that did their thing. They didn't go crazy against Texas, but they did enough. They averaged, I believe, about 7 yards per carry. And then Will Howard, as JC's talking about, he quite literally grew up in the Buckeyes colors. He transformed himself, which good on them for finding him. I don't think anyone doubted Will Howard's just ability to throw the football, but really getting showcased, giving him some tools. He was great. I mean, that's all you can say. And then lastly, the stifling defense. Oh boy, I'm sure we can get hyped on this one just talking about the defense. But last season, JT Tuimalau, Jack Sawyer, JC mentioned a second ago, Caleb Downs. Those are just three of the names that were featured last year. Of course, Downs still being there, and JC also mentioned arguably one of, if not the best defender in college football, is still there for Ohio State, really holding it down for the Buckeyes. However, those first two names I mentioned, Tuimalau and Sawyer, they were just living in that backfield. They
Yeah.
should have been paying the Texas O lineman rent, JC, because they were in their space the entire game. It was a nightmare. Let's be honest. I'm not going to beat around the bush. You got some different names now. Ohio State recruits with the best of them, so I'm not expecting a major drop off. But it's going to take some time for this team to gel overall. Just JC, anything else about these Buckeyes, or you want me to move on?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing you have to take away about these Buckeyes is, like you said, yeah, I mean, it's going to take time to gel. And that's why I know we're about to pivot to in a second. That's why we know what Texas needs to do. But I just really want to talk about in terms of the Buckeyes, the one thing where I just see a clear outright advantage favor Texas, and I'm willing to, talk about position. But for me, the one thing that stands about this game, it's all happening in the trenches. It's how does a brand new Texas O line hold up against a Ohio State D line? Yes, it's Ohio State, but it's not the same sort of remarkable game records that it was last year. It's not like we're going to be expecting. I'm not afraid to say that I think we're going to avoid getting sacked, more than twice or something like that. I'm not afraid they're going to collapse the pocket and, we're not going to be able to establish the run. Talk about the trenches there. Talk about the trenches on the other side. On Ohio State side, that is the best defensive line in the nation going against a true quarterback making his debut start against the number one team in the nation. Texas needs to have a field day. And that's number one. That's the clear outright is D-line versus D-line. It's Texas all the way. And with that being said, it's Texas D-line that's going to have a dominant day against Ohio State's O-line. And if they do, I mean, we're having a different conversation than we were back in January.
Talking about that, Julian saying the sophomore quarterback for the Buckeyes. I'll fire you up in a second here. We're going to get back to him. That's a little planting of the seeds. We talked about running
There you go.
backs. James Peoples, CJ Donaldson, the transfer running back being Donaldson. They're a solid duo. They're going to have to pick up where those Ohio State backs left off last season. Yet again, good yards per carry. Nothing crazy against Texas, but Texas also had, of course, great run stoppers last year. Going to look to do the same. But JC, Ohio State, yet again, going to need to lean on them a little bit more, most likely, because of that sophomore quarterback, Julian Sayin. He was an Alabama transfer very early on. I mentioned the former five-star quarterback because you saw that Colin Simmons on his story, I believe, shared a little Julian Sand picture when he was announced, did that fire you up at all? Just knowing that Texas already semi-calling their shot. I'm not going to go full, but semi-calling it in terms of how the game's going to look, defense versus offense.
Oh, brother, I'm fired up. Oh, brother, I'm fired up. Yes, and it's going to be definitely a weird year. It's like, we're not going to keep talking about the guys that weren't here because it's not Trayvon and it's not Quinshon Judkins. It's still two guys that are going to be impressive that you're going to need to bring your A game at. And even, James Peoples understands that. In an interview, he talked about how you can't have a bad day at Ohio State. And I think that's just the case. For a long time, they had all these elite quarterbacks. Last year, they had more of a game manager, relied on the run to go win a title. And, there's no big Bill Norton this year. There's no Baron Terrell kind of stopping the run on the inside. So it's going to be cool to see what these Texas transfers can do on the very interior. But it's like you said, what's happening on the edges today? What's happening with these tackles? Who's winning these matchups? When Colin Simmons said that,
Or,
I
or,
mean,
or didn't even say that. The lack of words, I
didn't
think,
even.
was almost more more scary if I'm a quarterback. Just sharing
If
a
I'm
picture
Julian
of me on
Sayin,
Instagram, I'm
yeah,
not liking that. I mean, Colin Simmons, anyone that knows Texas, he's a character, and I think everyone loves him for it. But if you're Sark, you're probably you're probably poking at him a little bit the next day in practice, saying, "What are you doing?" But I think the
I mean,
Longhorns defense
I
likes
think
it,
he
JC. I think they want someone to fire them up.
Yeah, and I think we all remember his infamous A&M photo that I feel like Sark probably had him take down too, right after we held the Con Holdings Lone Star Trophy. We remember Colin had a very classy IG post on that one as well. But he is headhunting, but so is Trey Moore, but so is Ethan Burke. I mean, I truthfully feel like this D line is just built for such a position to have a field day. And our other video, which if you haven't seen it, go check it out. You talked about it. This Texas defense can benefit from a Texas pass rush that can be so great that it can just improve the overall defense in the secondary when it comes to passing. And I think that's going to happen. And Julian Sayin is an athlete, yes, but I don't necessarily believe him to be the same kind of runner with Will Howard. You had to give Will Howard that respect. You had to recognize that he could take off at any point. Obviously, yeah, you really just know what you know about Julian from high school, from his athletic profile. Still a five-star quarterback. It's still a Alabama quarterback, and you have to treat him with that level of respect. But I mean, if you can just crash the line, make them uncomfortable, force those throws, that's where Texas defense eats. That's where Texas defense can have a field day. So that's my thing about Julian saying
Oh, for
I'm
sure.
excited.
Well, I'll
Yeah,
continue
I'm
on a
excited,
little
man.
bit about San
Yeah.
and also probably the Texas defense, but we might get to that in a little bit. Jeremiah Smith, I mean, that name just sounds amazing. That name sounds marketable, and unfortunately for Texas, that name lives on the opposite sideline. Last season, let me break out the numbers here. A little cheat sheet. Over
Little
13
stat upper.
over 1300 receiving yards, 15 touchdowns as a freshman. I mean, I know we talk about Colin Simmons being a star freshman. Ohio State had just that as well. Now in his sophomore year, a little more comfortable, but he's going to have to help out a quarterback that isn't as experienced as Will Howard was. Then, joining Smith, you have Carnell Tate, who was the third leading receiver for Ohio State last year, but also paired that with 52 catches, a little over 700 yards, and 4 touchdown grabs. So, still solid wideouts to help Sayin, but like JC was saying, you've got plenty of Texas defenders that are hunting him down like they are big game hunting. Speaking of that, we've got X Factors, our favorite little part here. What we think will make the difference in the game. I'm going to start, JC, to give you a little time to think about it and see how an expert chooses his X Factors, and then you can write yours
See how an
down.
expert does it. Okay.
Um, I mentioned it as a hint a second ago. The Texas pass rush. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm scared of a lot of things, JC. I wouldn't like to approach a rattlesnake in a cornered room. I wouldn't want to be playing with tarantulas in the dark. However, the Texas defense on that pass rush, that joins that list for me because I do not want to face Ant Hill, Colin Simmons, Ethan Burke, Trey Moore, even Colton Vasek. He gets healthy. He can make some damage too. I've seen it. Of course, you're talking about high school recruiting. At the high school level, He was dominant. He just needs time at Texas. But those other guys I mentioned, they have proven that day in and day out. But Colin Simmons sharing my post on the story. I'm heading out of practice, and I'm probably going to do a quick prayer before heading back in if I'm saying the Texas pass rush is going to be the difference in this game. It's going to be the key, really, position group for the Longhorns. We mentioned all the other elements, but trying to break in a freshman quarterback, the best way to do that is to not let him get broken in. Is to literally break him. I hope not. I hope health on both sides, JC. But if you're the Longhorns, you're going to have to make them uncomfortable. You're going to have to speed up that mental clock that all quarterbacks have and just get him to be nervous in the pocket. I think that's the best way for Texas to win. And if they can do that, then they can start to play the run a little bit more with some new faces. I know Peoples was there last year, but Ohio State really likes to just mix up their running game with different players. But for me, X Factors, it's got to be the Texas pass rush. JC, is there any group in particular that you're excited to see?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're hitting it right on the hammer. I mean, we'll start at the Texas pass rush, but for me, there's two kind of sides on the Texas ball that I think we have to talk about. And my one X factor, it's gonna be Broad. This is my first one. I'm allowed to go a little bit off the script here. I'm
This is
allowed to go a
your
little
one
bit crazy.
exception.
My one exception. This is week one. We're grooving into it. I
Yeah,
think
don't
it's
use it
Dwayne
so
Aquino,
early,
man.
but continue on. Yeah.
I'm ready. It's Dwayne Aquino, man. It's gonna be
Oh
Dwayne
wow.
Aquino.
Okay,
It's
that's
an
deep.
experienced guy.
Yeah.
It's a guy that has so much respect, and that's clearly obvious in any like interview you watch and any of the way you see the players talk about him. But it was one player, and I was actually trying to find it while you were talking about him, and I couldn't find the exact direct quote tweet. But one of the players talks about how Aquino is like, anyone can take that hit. Who's going to go and make that play? Who's going to go and get that ball? And I think that's the thing about this Texas secondary is, you know, they want the ball this year. That's what I really feel like. And even when you read about it in, the scrimmages and then fall ball and then spring ball, summer ball, like it just seemed like every day at least two guys were getting an interception on this team. Two or three guys every day. It felt like it was happening, including a couple of times on Arch Manning with multiple interception days. Like these guys, they want the ball this year. They are seeking the ball, and I think that's amazing. I think that's going to be so impressive. I can't wait to see how they defend the pass this year. But for me, I think a lot of that's due to obviously PK, all of them having been in his system for a couple of years now. But I think Akina is such a great hire for Texas, and I think that's going to do so much for that secondary. Just even just in terms of leadership, and it's there,
Oh,
and I'm excited.
and to
But
jump in on Akina
yeah,
real
you got
quick.
it.
I
Yeah,
mean, for those who
go for
don't
it.
know, he's the defensive passing game coordinator. He's someone that, and I'm going to work backwards in history here. He's someone that recently the Longhorns tried to hire on their staff. Sark tried to hire him. I believe it was Arizona. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
Yes,
tried to
it
hire
was
him
with Johnny
away from
Manson. Yeah.
Arizona. It didn't work out. He stayed another year, and guess what? He went right back to the bag, and Akina's here. But to go a deeper dive, why so many Longhorns fans love him, why so many players love him, as JC is saying, he is a UT guy through and through. He helped to found that DBU defense in those early 2000s, especially when the Longhorns were doing their thing at the national level. He's very seasoned. He's a fiery guy. And I think it's going to be, an excitement level that we haven't seen from the defensive backs, honestly, in some time. And I know there's plenty of flashy names from the past, but this might be a new era for Longhorns, especially now that they're recruiting again on that level that you really expect. But sorry to cut you off there, JC. Just wanted to give some
No,
context.
oh, good, man. I feel like that just means I had a great point. If you were willing to keep continuing on, I set myself up. And for me, the biggest one is, we talked about it on Julian's side is how do you make a player uncomfortable? You don't let them establish the run. The Texas offensive line, I think that, there's a lot of talk about the Ohio State line. We even talked about say that the D line, it's not going to be the same D line that Ohio State had a year ago. And, if you look at it, hasn't exactly been getting the best position rankings in Big Ten, kind of depending on whatever news source you look at that, whatever you want to look for preseason. But for me, with that being said, this offensive line, I think you can't ask for a better test to start out against. And I think there's something to be said that, we're not playing against Georgia's defensive line. We're not playing against Florida's defensive line this early on. We're going to have time to gel, but got Baxter. And, by all accounts, from what Sark has said over the last couple of weeks, he seems ready to take off, the brakes, all gas, if you will.
Oh boy.
I think, I think that if you get Baxter and Wisner going early, it's easy. I mean, that's just how it's going to happen. And as long as you don't ask too much of Arch and you let Arch be Arch and Arch do his game, I think his game's clearly going to show. I think he's as good as we all think he is. Maybe not as good as the national media says, because some of the national media, Paul Feinbaum thinks he walks on water. I don't think that's
I
quite the
saw
case.
Arch once on campus. I think I saw him walking on water, JC.
Ugh, okay, my bad, guys. Didn't know. So I think that's all it is. You're not going to ask him to do too much, just the way they're not going to ask Sayan to do much. Just let Arch play his game. He's going to make those big time plays when he has to. He's going to make mistakes. He's going to throw an interception. I think he might throw one in the first quarter. Don't overreact. Establish the run. Take care of business.
I think that's a good point too. Saying, of course, we're talking about breaking him in, but quite honestly, it's the same on the other sideline. I mean, Arch Manning, I think this is start number 3 for him in his career, but this is really the first start where it is his team. Before it was, you're going to watch the car for me while I'm at school, and I'm going to come back, and it's going to be my team again. This is where he gets to drive the Ferrari, the Lamborghini. He's got the keys, but he's still not quite settled in yet. And so we're going to see how comfortable he is on game 1. Of course, I'd expect some level of just progression as the season goes on, but I'm setting a cautious tone here. JC, I don't think Arch feels the same way given recent comments during his presser. Do you want to enlighten the crowd what I'm talking about here?
That was so tough. That was so tough. No. That really it was like, do you remember when Quinn was like, the John Gruden interview when he was doing the whole pre-draft stuff where he was like, what is it? We don't run plays at the University of Texas. You remember Quinn's direct quote? I don't know if you remember that.
I remember the moment. I don't remember the exact quote, but I remember him being like, "Oh, it was a similar vibe." It was, I'm a confident quarterback. I play for the University of Texas, and this is my team. I mean, Arch Manning, I believe, was asked about the Longhorns being a target.
I've got the quote ready.
Okay. Being a target for other teams. JC has the official quote here.
Yeah, I mean, this tells you everything you know. It's like you said. I think we kind of tried to shift the narrative. We're going for everyone else. The target's not on our back. We have a red dot on everyone else. And if Arch feels that way, and if Colin Simmons is going to keep posting quarterbacks the way he's going to post, it's going to be those two. And I think that even you saw last year in the couple of games that Arch played. That's my biggest thing about Arch is swagger. I mean, I'm just going to say the word. He just oozes swagger, and he just radiates such charisma and how he goes about his game. Like the Arch Manning you see on camera, it's obvious he has a personality. The media obviously adores him, but he's very respectful.
Oh, for sure.
The way he talks about opponents, the way he talks about defensives, the way he talks about his own teammates.
Well, it's
interesting. Then you see Arch Manning on Saturday, and he said, yeah, this team's headhunting this year, man.
I would say it's interesting because Ewers and Arch have two very different leadership styles. Ewers, especially when he came on, was a little more lead by example, but a quiet quarterback. Over the years, he got to be more vocal. Arch, of course, I'm sure he's leading behind the scenes and has been for years, but he's a more boisterous guy, as JC's saying. Now he's getting to show by leading by example, getting to be on the field. So it's really fortunate for Texas to have these quarterbacks. We're going to see how Arch plays. Like JC said, you got to keep the expectations where they should be. Young quarterbacks for both teams. We're just going to see how they play on Saturday. Now, moving on to the next point, we got danger level. This is where it gets a little fun because I get to test JC's nervous system here. Saturday, big game. As I mentioned in the opener, maybe the biggest opener in college football history. Depends on your view of that, but 1 versus 3, it's hard to beat that. How nervous are you for the Longhorns going into Columbus, Ohio on Saturday?
Well, clearly you didn't watch Boston College, Florida State Week 0 last year because you want to talk openers. That was an all-timer. I think if you asked me 2 weeks ago, my answer would have been, I put a not a significant amount of money, but more than I would have liked to, with my coworkers, who are all avid Buckeyes fans, and I stand on business. I stand on DKR, and I know that Texas is going to go in there and take care of business, but as the game gets closer, storylines start to come out. You start to hear more and more. Eventually we're going to get that depth chart from Texas, and what's up
Supposedly.
with Trevor Goosby? Supposedly, allegedly, what's going on with Trevor Goosby? Is Trevor Goosby going to be healthy? How much of an O-line concerns do we have? Is everyone good to go? And on the Ohio State side, they're giving Julian those reps now. He's going to have 2 weeks of first team reps. He's going to have time to prepare, and it's going to be, yeah, it's two different coordinators. It's not the same coordinators that it was last year when OSU played, which I'm sure we'll talk on later in terms of continuity. But there's every reason to be, you know, intimidated. And
What
I
are you
think
giving it
that
1 to 10? What's your just knee jerk reaction here? 10 being the most
let's
nervous.
say like let's say like a 6.
Okay. Okay. You
I'm
feel
nervous, but I'm not. Yeah, I'm aware.
okay.
I'm aware. Yeah, and this one I will say this. My one point on this game in terms of that is that this is a big game for Sark. This is a big go out and do it. You've lost to DeBoer, you lost to Ryan Day, you lost to Georgia twice. Um, And I think that that's something that obviously I feel like Sark doesn't care about his individual accolades, but I feel like Texas wants to finally have that big moment in the sun. They want to be the one that does on national TV in the regular season. We did it against Bama once. We've done it against Michigan. We can do it now. I mean, if this game was week 2, Texas, I mean, I've got us winning by 45 based on the last 2 years that we've seen of the Texas Longhorns. But it's a fix, but it's a big game for Steve Sarkisian. It's a big it's a big time one, and I think that a Texas win means more than an Ohio State loss here. And that's strictly how I feel, even if I wasn't a Texas fan.
We have JC on to talk about the Longhorns. You can see he's passionate. A 6,
Yeah.
I mean that's a confident viewpoint there, but I also see why, and I'm going to talk a little bit about it here. If you're Longhorns, you're bound to be a little nervous. I know you got the red target, the red dot on other people's backs. But if there's any target on anybody's backs right now, it is against Ohio State. Having eliminated you guys. Let's not
Yeah.
act like we're the big dogs on the block yet. We're not barking, quite loud just yet. They eliminated you, won the national championship. It's at home for them. There is continuity on the team, but as JC said, at the coordinator positions there is not. Now Brian Hartline is now the offensive coordinator for the Buckeyes. He was on their coaching staff, so that's nothing new for them, but him calling plays, just being more involved from a coordinator perspective, that's definitely something a little bit different. And then if you know your football, Matt Patricia on the defensive side at the defensive coordinator position, long career in both the pros and college in terms of coaching. It's a big hire for them. But still, yet again, I talked about in the last video, there's just something to be said about having the same coaches year after year, because everything in terms of the language you speak from the team to the players amongst themselves is the same. You're not getting mixed expectations. You know what you're getting. So it's going to be a little bit of a difference there. But yet again, I'm nervous. I'm not going to say I'm like breaking the glass nervous, but I'm going to give it a solid 8. On Saturday, I think all Texas fans should be nervous. I think all Ohio State fans should be nervous. Kind of on the flip side of what I was saying. They are the big dog on the street, but if Texas takes this game from you week 1, that might be a big signal to the college football world where the playoff hierarchy when the season ends might stand. It's a long season, though. It's just 1 week at a time if you're Texas. But I'm going 8. That's my final statement, JC. Now we're going to the
I
fun
like
part
that.
of the show. We've been waiting for it. The predictions. I know we've got some outrageous already danger levels. Devon's already at an 8 to start the season. A little crazy. But JC, predictions. Who's going to be victorious in this week 1 matchup? The final, yet again, location of College Game Day and our boy Lee Corso. Who takes the cake here?
I feel like I'm like doing like not first take. I think I'm doing around the horn right now. This is my 60 seconds to prove. This is to prove
I
it
love
all.
around the horns. That's
Not,
perfect.
I'll tell you this, Texas fans, Texas Longhorn fans. I have had a vision since January 11th that morning when I woke up after that game, and you know, we come to find out a few months later, Lee Corso is going to end College Game Day. The second I found that out, I said, "Yeah, they're going to Columbus," and I know exactly how this story is going to end. The storybook of the most popular figure in college football of our lifetimes, one of the most significant ones. And Lee Corso is going to go up there. He's going to go to the shoe. He's going to do what I would do. He's going to talk about how, yeah, they're still a national champion and they've got Ryan Day. You're missing a little bit of continuity. You've got a brand new quarterback who's making his like first time start, and you just lost players. But so is Texas. Texas got their coordinators. They've got Steve Sarkisian, and they've got the guy that Texas fans have been waiting for 2 years now. And that's not to say about anything bad on Quinn, but Quinn did have to deal with everybody waiting for the backup for 2 years, man. But it's finally time. It's finally Arch's team, and it's time that we see that this really is the number one defense in the nation, which I truthfully believe is the case. And it's crazy to say that, looking back at Texas over the last 5 years. But this is the start of year 5, man. This is where it's all coming together. This is like when you would see Kirby beat Saban for the first time, man. So I think that Texas is going to go into the shoe. I think Lee Corso is going to put on that head. And I think it's going to be a gritty, gritty, gritty game. But I think Texas will win. And I think it's going to be a late defensive score, too, maybe. Maybe it just happens. But I've got Texas winning this game by a score of 27-17.
27-17. All right. In favor of the Longhorns. Now, JC, you're talking about those around the horn little finishing segments. It's my turn here. I'm going big screen.
Here we go. Let's see the points. Yeah.
Points might be in favor of JC today, but it's okay. It's the fourth quarter that matters the most. We're going to nail it here. Guys, you can't ask for a better start to the season, even if JC does note that there is a week 0 that exists. If you're the Texas Longhorns, it does not exist. This is the first game of the season. You're going to Columbus, Ohio. Again, to mention it for the third time, the last College Game Day ever with Lee Corso. I'm going to also note that he did pick Brutus in his first headgear selection, I believe late 90s. I want to say it was 97, but correct me if I'm wrong, audience that's viewing this. But expect him to pick Brutus again. Vegas, 2.5-point favorite in favor of Ohio State. The national narrative sounds like it's in favor of Ohio. But really, the tide has turned, JC. This is a Longhorn game. It's really Texas' game to win or to lose. I'm not going to hype it up like Texas is automatically rolling away with this. They're not. It's going to come down to Arch Manning. Can he do what he does? Sark talked about it. I'm not going to ask you to do anything that is not expected of you. I'm not going to ask for you to be, a Heisman winner from the running back position as a quarterback. Like, I'm not going to ask you to go run for 90 yards every game. I'm not going to ask you to pass for 500 yards per game. I just need you to manage the game well and to not make silly decisions. Do not turn the ball over. We talked about it before. Archie Manning, grandpas give great advice, JC. Get down or get out of bounds if somebody's coming for you. Now that's the setup. I think with the Texas pass rush, that is, again, the key position group to watch. Ant Hill and Colin Simmons really get a chance to set the tone for the season, but also set the tone for their legacy. I mean, we're going to talk about the name on your front. Let's also talk about the name on the back. Your last name, Hill and Simmons, this is a chance to really make something of yourself in terms of the Texas lore. It goes back a while for Longhorns in terms of history, but there is not as many recent memories that you can pull from the top of the dome other than maybe Ethan Burke's stop against A&M last year. This is a chance to bring up, again, why Texas not only is in the title contention, but why they are the team with red dots on everybody else's back. I got the Longhorns winning 34-24. I know it's a little higher scoring than I think a lot of people are predicting. We're going to see how it goes. Julian Sayin has the targets. just offensively at the wideout positions. They do still have experience at running back. However, I think Tuimalau and Sawyer being gone, it's going to give Texas just a little bit more of breathing on that offensive line, that offensive front, to try to protect Arch. I think the running backs being healthier again and just having a full offseason going in, knowing that they are now the guys, I think that's going to be big for Texas. I think the thing that is going to be fun to learn, JC, is how comfortable are these transfer receivers or targets? How good are these wideouts that Texas has that are really young to the game and don't have much experience? That's what's going to potentially hold them back here. But Arch, yet again, it's his game to say, yes, I want this. Let's go win a championship this season. Or on the flip side, Ohio State gets the last laugh. I am going Texas again, 34-24. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. I feel like that was a marathon of an episode, but we do appreciate it. Please check out our content at HornSports.com. Follow us on all platforms. And again, it's going to be a fun season, JC. This is just week 1. We appreciate you guys, and take care.